Hello, this is Blaine Moore from RunToWin.com, and this past weekend I ran the Bradbury Mountain Breaker. It's a 9-mile race. It's the second race in a series of 3 races that are at Bradbury Mountain State Park in Pownell, Maine. And just looking at the courses, I think that this might be my favorite course of the 3. You start out by running around the boundary trail on the outside of the park, and then when you get up to the south ridge, you go all the way back down to the base of the mountain, and then straight up on the summit trail. Within about a quarter mile, you're hitting the summit, taking the tote road about 3/4 of the way back down the mountain until you come up the northern loop, and then on the first loop you'll go down the switchback, and on the second loop you come down the terrace trail to finish. So you hit the summit twice, but you actually get within spitting distance of it another 4 times besides that, which makes for some interesting strategy because you're constantly going up and down throughout the race. Pretty early in the race, I settled into 4th place, and that's where I stayed almost the entire time. The only 2 times I lost 4th place were on the summit trail, where you go from the base to the top of the mountain. It's about a 400-foot climb, and you do it all within about a quarter mile. And I generally just walk that stretch of it. I mean, I do run parts of it, but for the most of that stretch, it's steep enough and short enough that it's not worth wasting your energy on when you're trying to get up it quickly. So I don't go very much faster when I'm running versus when I'm walking. So both loops I wound up getting passed by people that were running that stretch. But when we got to the tote road right after hitting the summit, I went by those guys pretty handily and managed to gap them both, and never saw either one of them again until the finish line. So for me, that strategy works out pretty well. I was pretty happy with it. I got to the finish line, and not surprisingly, Judson Cake had won the race. He's a not slow guy. I've only managed to beat him once, and he had to have the flu in order for me to do that. But he got under an hour. I think that's the first time on this course that anybody's run it in under 60 minutes. He was about 10 minutes ahead of me. So I didn't have any chance of catching him even if I had wanted to. But it was nice chatting with him, watching the next few people come in. I thought that we were going to have a pretty close race with Acidotic Racing, who he runs for, and the Trail Monster Running, who I run for. Fortunately for Trail Monsters, a lot of it comes down to how closely together you can place everybody. So despite Acidotic having 3 guys up front, they still weren't able to come home with the team win because Trail Monsters then had about 5 or 6 people that came in before their next guy. So it definitely makes a big difference in high school cross-country running or in adult racing, is how closely you can bring people in as opposed to just having 1 or 2 front runners. So if you get a chance, there's still 1 race left in the series, the Bradbury Bruiser, on September 11th, 2011. I recommend you come out and try it. It's back on the other side of the park, so it's not nearly as hilly as the Breaker is, but it does have some fun trails and that give you some good switchbacks that will really require a little upper body strength, which is always a good time. And then next year there'll be the full series again, and in between there is a snowshoe series at the park too. So there's plenty of opportunities to run a lot of races out at Bradbury, and it's a fun place to go, so I recommend it. If you want to learn more about the races, then you can visit trailmonsterrunning.com, and there'll be a link to all of the races put on by the club.